Yep.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mike, the camera from the video feed is out of focus on, I think for everybody.
The one
If I'm looking at the group in the room.
We really can't control that one.
I can, but I have to get a ladder out, so
Okay,
have to listen tonight.
Okay, everybody, 6 o'clock, we're gonna call the meeting to order. We'd start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks to everybody online. Scott's a little under the weather tonight, so he's opted out. Stephen and I just discussed it briefly, and I guess I'm gonna take care of the agenda. And we'll go from there. We do have a fairly long agenda. Of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them, but if we can kind of just try to get through it as smoothly as we can, that's what we're hoping for tonight. I guess I would start again by saying now that the meeting's open, make sure everyone has signed in. And the first thing on the agenda would be the minutes from September 6th. Stephen and I have had a chance to review them, and
So I just have one change on number 5. Down at the bottom where it says to consider a shorter pipeline, that was not what the plan was. It was to a shorter underground section of the pipeline. So we're still going out the full length that we had originally planned, so.
we could just make that amendment to it and we'll be good to go. And then there is another.
The August 23rd.
Yep,
or
yep,
2nd.
August 22nd. We had already signed off on these minutes, but it was noticed that there was the location of them was not correct, so we've readjusted or adjusted. Moving right along. Next on the agenda is budget versus actual.
2 seconds.
Time is on, Mr. Stanton.
The only difficulty with the budget at this point is we're overspending the budget, which legally we can't do. So as of this moment, we're spending $24,440 more than's been appropriated, which legally we can't do. So we gotta cut something. We just gotta put the curb on more spending if we're gonna avoid it.
You got a couple of thought processes in mind, I'm sure, or no?
Yeah, I do, but when you get to the proposal you want to make, hold off on that proposal until we know where we are for cash. I've already sequestered all the money out of government building and tips.
Gotcha.
Okay, so if you spend it, I got a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying, wait until we see what we.
Yeah.
So Ned sees where he is on cash.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it. The other piece of this equation is on the 2023 budget. So if you look at page 6. We'll talk about it briefly sometime other than this one at the meeting. But it has more money in the purple boxes. On page 6 for going into capital reserves next year. And that's because of the significant problems we had in capital reserves this year. And so it goes up 5,000 on bridges, it goes up 5,000 on buildings. It goes up on police cruisers by 1,600, or is it $1,845? It goes up on fire trucks by 25,000 and highway by 30,000, roughly 33,000. And that's because the costs of equipment have gone up and we just have to deal with it. So that's different. And then the last item is on the page. Nope. So on the top of that,
Mike, could you just back up to the overspend this year?
Yeah.
That's the first time since I've been
it's ever happened.
at this time of year, so.
Yeah, it's early and it's not good.
Yeah.
And I've already pulled, if you go back through in that one column where it says 2022, okay, there's a column in red that says 2022. Anything that's in that column that's a negative means I've already pulled back money, so don't spend anymore.
Okay.
Anything that's in a positive means we've overspent it. And if you want to take the time, so we spent a lot on advertising for positions, so we're about $30,000 overspent there.
Mm.
We're gonna spend less on transition, so that's good, that'll offset most of that.
Yeah.
And you can go down through, but this is, and we may be better in 2 months, we just don't know.
Good.
So at this point, it's the first time ever where we just,
And really, 30,000 overspent on advertising, that's a big part of it.
it's a big part of it,
Yeah.
but you got other pieces in there that have been the same thing, like health insurance is down 33,000.
Sure,
So you got
I
up,
see.
down, all through this budget,
I see.
and if we can just. Anything that needs to be repaired, anything that needs to be fixed, yeah, do it. Anything, we gotta do the payroll, obviously, but if it's discretionary and some things like buying salt, we're doing that. It's just anything that we can just hold back a month or two to do, I would recommend doing that.
Okay.
So that was the other, and then the last piece is gonna be, we will be putting into this budget, I'm not sure if it's in here yet. We're going. Might as well say and get it over with so people can start yelling about it. We've had a capital reserve program to fund capital reserves for all of our departments for the better part of 14 or 15 years. It's become big and it works, except this year when we had some equipment costs go up 30%. So, and then we've also had, in case anybody's missed the memos that we've had over the last couple of years, we haven't had a mechanic for 2 years. So we have a lot of equipment that is in bad shape. Functionally, because it just didn't get repaired the way it needed. As part of the CIP program, this will come out of the other part, I won't spend as much time on CIP. But part of the CIP process every year. CIP committee interviews the mechanic if we have one, and highway superintendent. And also the fire chief, those and ambulance chief. Those are the big departments for costs. And the question is, what are the changes in the schedule? What needs to be replaced sooner? What can be deferred? What's the condition of the equipment? Does it have to be replaced? The summary is this year, because of costs are much higher to replace. Because of no mechanic, we have 9 pieces of equipment in the highway department alone out of 15 major pieces that need to be replaced within 3 years. It's called front end loading. So we got a greater need in the next 3 years than we have any way of effectively putting money aside to cover. Just, we don't have the ability to do it. There has been a long discussion, I think every week for the past 4 or 5 weeks, we've had the discussion at the CIP committee. There was a consensus reached this afternoon, an agreement, at least tentative agreement, that what we needed to do was to borrow money to replace a grader. And it would be a 10-year borrowing. Take a loan out. It would have to be approved by the voters. But there's no other way to buy a $314,000 piece of equipment when we haven't been stocking it. We were going to replace it 10 years from now. So the only way we can do it next year is that the voters approve a loan. And we are going to put the payments for the loan into the general fund budget. So it will be included in there. If the voters don't approve it, well, that's a whole different matter. We'll go back into the unassigned fund balance. But that is a way for us to catch up. One loan, or one piece of equipment. At the end of the 10-year period, we're back to where we used to be, and the funding will be in there consistently. And if we had to replace another grader 2 or 3 years after that, we had the money for it. But we would be in really good shape for the next 10 years, after the first 10 years. So it's taken us a long time to get to that point.
But to
Yeah.
be clear, with the CIP, we also made other adjustments too, where we've put the
A whole new structure.
CPI, annual CPI into it as well.
Yep,
So
we changed the process so that it now has an inflationary rate for costs. And we tied the inflationary rate for costs to the federal government monitors heavy equipment and what the costs are over time. And they told us what they believe that the inflation rate ought to be. That's what we use. Likewise, we did the same thing on the revenue side so that the amounts that go in. So when I read the amount for the police department, $36,840. Well, that's because the formula says that, so we got to put in. So you'll see more of those. It won't be a round number anymore. It'll be whatever the formula says. This is what we have to put in. And we've tried to balance that, so it isn't a huge increase, but it is going to change over time. And it has. You never can tell for sure how it's going to work out. So, who knew that equipment costs are going to go up 30% in 1 year? So it has always been true that the CIP committee looks at it every single year. They will have to continue to do that, and the formulas are plug and place. You want to adjust the inflation rate for the cost, put in a new number, and it moves it all the way through the system. You want to plug in a new number for investment, put in a new percentage number, and it changes. So the biggest change that's going to hit the general fund budget for next year is, well, a lot of changes, but the one change that's related to capital assets is the greater loan payment. And it's but roughly, it averages $37,000 a year, so it's not a huge amount. And frankly, it's nowhere near what it's going to cost us for power increases and for oil and propane increases and all that. And it's only a fraction of what we're going to end up paying on payroll and other things that we got high costs, something we can really do about it. So, and then when we get to the budget, is that now? Are we on general fund? Is that the same one? Yeah.
Excuse me, this is Claude Lemoy.
Yeah.
Could I add 2 comments about the grader?
Yep.
First, we should point out that the 10-year loan is for a piece of equipment that we expect will last 20 years.
Yep.
That's an important point. And the other point is that this grader that's being spec'd out has more capability and will greatly improve the efficiency of the highway crews in grading the roads. So it makes it worth the extra investment.
Absolutely. And it will be spec'd out or is being spec'd out. So it's more of what we need for a grader instead of what we're able to get at this time, right? So, and the other thing that, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but it was discussed with this arrangement, payment arrangement and loan arrangement, there is no pre-penalty for early payment. And it looks, of course, several years out, it's hard to really see, but from what we were noticing today, there may be an option after 7 years to pay the grader off. So now we're not paying another 3 years worth of interest, and we still have 13 decent, 10 good years left and a few more, so that does end this machine running us 20 years and potentially being paid off for 13 of that. So it's,
Thank you.
You're welcome, Claude. Thank you.
Majority of the people that are involved in this process still believe in paying up front to keep down the financing costs and all that. There are sometimes so when you have no choice, and this is one of those times.
Yep.
Final comment on the general fund budget. There was a revenue budget that came, that's out in the handouts, and there's the expense budget. So the revenue one is a page long, and that one's a relevant one. I'll find it. Yeah, find it.
Need my mic.
Yeah, I don't have it. It's still yours.
Gotcha. I got mine from earlier.
Okay, so On the revenue budget right now, with everything we're talking about, with all the increases for fuels and for all the other things we've been hit with this year, it is gonna have a tax rate increase. The last meeting, the board directed me to keep it under 7.5 if I could. Right now, it's a 6.47. That's a 6.47% tax rate increase. On a house of 150,000, that would cost $60
Per year?
per year.
Right.
So it's at this, and we haven't got all the numbers. We don't know what's gonna happen on health insurance, but a lot of the other numbers are in pretty good shape. Most of the rest of them are finalized, and while I'm done in the near future, I agreed to work with Ned to try to keep working on this until we get closer to the final draft, which will be sometime in November. Whether I'm paid or not, I'll keep working with him until this is wrapped up. It's been a very difficult year for the budget. We just had a conversation about how the budget's overspent. Never had that happen before. We've always had a surplus. Some of you may remember the surplus goes to help fund the capital reserves. So not only does it impact us, we're potentially illegal unless we cut the cost. The other side of the equation is we won't have any real surplus going into the capital reserves. We do have surplus in revenue, and that'll help us, so we should be okay. Anyway, that's it for the general fund budget. It's expensive this year, gonna be expensive next year. For the first time in at least 8 weeks, we finally think have a potential solution for how to deal with the cost issues and the timing on the capital reserves.
And really, the reason the budget is so out of whack is because of the inflationary rate and the heating costs, and just
And repairs.
and repairs, right? So that's really why this budget is so, it's nothing that any one person has said, hey, I think we need to have that. And this is all stuff that's kind of catching up with us and stuff that's happened to every little town in the country, I think, so.
I already said this, but I'll say it one more time. The highway mechanic guy and Bob Cushman, our highway superintendent, came in and met with the CIP committee and went through every piece of equipment.
Absolutely.
Said, what's wrong with it? When does it have to be replaced?
Yeah.
And out of 15 major pieces, 9 of them have to be replaced in the next 3 years. You can't change a funding system radically quick enough to make that happen without using a loan.
But it's gonna cost us a lot more on the other side if we don't do it.
Yeah. We have to do it.
That it, Mike?
That's it.
Nice.
Do we get M&Ms for brevity?
Well, we're getting on to another subject here, so it could be.
Yeah.
Let's wait until it's
Two.
11 o'clock tonight and give
I think
those
so.
out.
So the next on the agenda is the water project. It's the $550,000 loan renewal, the $833,000 loan, and revised total budget.
Yeah, so let's see if I can do that in 5 minutes.
You got 7 for that one.
Yeah, I don't know what that's gonna. So we have a combination right now of 2 loans for the water project. The water project is replacing water lines all over God's green earth. And getting rid of lead that's in the system and drilling under rivers and all that. We have funding from 2 loans. 2 $200,000 grants from ARPA. There were grants, just pure grants. Money that we had in our water and sewer account. A major quote grant from congressionally designated appropriation. In other words, from Congress for like $1.4 million. And that was gonna take care of all our costs. However, the loan that was characterized, one of the loans that was characterized as a loan, but it's really a grant, is not a loan, really a grant, it's a loan. And there is forgiveness of the loan, but that's upping the cost enough. So we can't do everything we want to do. So anything that's discretionary on water sewer is coming out of the project. So we're not floodproofing the pump station. For the sewer plant, there's a bunch of other things that aren't as critical. They're not gonna be fixed.
Just the immediate needs, I think.
Just immediate needs. In one of the handouts in the back of the room, you've got a list of all the immediate needs. So when it says water improvements, 920. So all the immediate needs are $2,696,000 for the water system. I don't think that the 1965, I think it was 65, they did the water changes, or maybe it was 80. Somewhere in there, those changes didn't amount to $2,696,000, so this is a huge amount of money. We're trying not to use the loans any more than we have to, but we are going to have to use the loans. The loans are gonna have to be paid for. And we're in the process of trying to figure out how to pay as little as possible of the loans out of user fees. So we're working on that now.
And how much is forgivable, Mike?
On one of those loans, so it's called SRF on that sheet down towards the bottom. The first, that's a state revolving fund. It says 525, well, that loan is not forgivable. We have to pay it, and it's actually 550. So that, we got 25 of it that we've drawn down, but so 550 of that loan, it's a full loan, has to be repaid. Number two, which is SRF 2. Of that, $280,000, it was 803 was given to us. As a loan. Of the 803, we would only have half of it forgiven. So that means we would have 830. So we would
At 450.
we would have 415 forgiven. We still have another loan left, 415,000. So rather than do that, we're cutting back on the size of the project, so we don't have to borrow 805,000. And right now, we would have to borrow 561,000. So it still means that we have to have two loans that we have to pay. And of that 561, so we're gonna forgive part of it.
So two loans for 700 something.
830 total. So we owe 550, we have to pay that one. And we'll owe 280, we'll have to pay that one. So the total loans are 830,000. Some of the discussion has been, well, let's not do it. 2/3 of the projects that are being fixed date back 100 years. The town, the village cannot come up with this money unless there's significant federal funds involved. And we made that pitch to Shaheen's office. Look, it was every time to throw money at a problem for needy people. People in Canaan Village have no ability to come up with a $1.4 million in funding for repairs. They gave it to us. It has a match, it's a 20% match, but they gave us some money. The stuff that needs to be repaired. It's gonna fix the crossing under Indian River that goes up to Graceville. We've only had that break twice in the last 5 years. It's gonna fix all the water mains that keep breaking on an endless basis. It's gonna get the lead that's on the service connections from the street pipe to your house in some areas of the village. You have solid lead pipes that move the water from the street to the house. We don't even know for sure where they all are. We just know that they're in there and they're anything put in before a certain year. So get rid of all that lead, which makes for a much safer system. We have to replace the water main from the lake down to the village. We all know that that's been highly problematic. We're gonna change it so that it will have a more reliable flow because it's gonna move it from the plant to the tank, not from the plant to Bruce Road. So all these changes have to occur. The question is, how can we do this in such a way that we use use basically $1.9 million of federal money and then somehow cover as much of the loans as we can in any other way other than raising rates. We are gonna probably have to raise the rates somewhat, but we won't know until we exhaust all the other options. And that's what we're working on now. But there's no point in deferring it. It took us 100 years to get us to the point of fixing it. We have money that's fixing 75% of it. Use the money, get it fixed. And we'll figure out a way. And then I'll work with you on that, even if I'm not on the clock. Because we've been talking about, we did about an hour on it today of how to cover it. And part of the way we can cover it is with more users. Part of the way we can cover it is with a change in how the rate structure is applied. There's a bunch of ways we can deal with it, but the idea is to minimize the impact on the ratepayers. So This is the thing called water and sewer. I do need to get authorization to renew the 550 loan. Because they think that we're gonna complete that construction. We're only in phase 1 out of 6,
So renew as far as have it roll over into,
into another year.
okay,
So
Yeah.
it's not final, it's just, they would require us to be done by December 31st.
Right.
I've got the paperwork here in the pile. If you're willing to, you need to sign that extension so I can turn it into.
and that's only for the portion that we're doing right now, correct?
That's right. It's a
Okay.
550.
And we're thinking it will not be
But right
done.
now, we only owe the 25,000, but that's not the point. The point is we gotta have,
Right, it won't be completed by December.
No.
We're probably gonna have to do some more. in
that
the spring.
550 will take all of next year.
Ned gave a thumbs up on that.
Good, thanks.
Okay.
So that's the third piece. So, the monies are different. Part of it's grants, part of it is forgiveness, part of it is nothing. We gotta pay it. We need to do the job. It's the right thing to do. And we will do our level best to keep the impacts low for the ratepayers. And I do need to get this renewal, otherwise we don't even have the 550. So we can put along.
I'll make a motion to continue that one.
Yeah, I'll second to amend the approval.
Here's two originals. Hey, you need to make a motion to designate me to sign the actual application. Which I'll do tomorrow.
Hey, Ned, can you make a note for when you get on board full time that we set up a meeting on water and sewer that's specific to the problem? Please. With the 3 selectmen and thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Ned. I just want to read this over just real quick here. Give me just a second, guys. All the stipulations are the same, right? Quick?
It's the same loan, it's just changed the date
How far out it can go.
next year.
Okay. Yep.
But there is an online form I gotta fill out and certify, so can you make sure that somebody up on the table says that it allows me to execute that?
Where do we need to sign for that? Or
You
do we
don't,
just
that's
need
the
to
problem, I
state?
gotta do it online.
I allow you to execute that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sign what you need to sign, Mike.
Did you get that? What do we got? Okay.
Was that a motion and a second?
Yes. Thank you, Russ. You're just asking to be able to put your signature on an online form, right?
Yes,
Mike? Yeah,
that's correct.
okay. Excellent. All right. Okay, so that took care of the loan amendment approval as well. Real quick, before we get off the water aspect of this, I wanted to let everybody know who's been listening in on the meetings. What we come up with for the change order in the water project that we were working on. To a brief summary, we got a change order for $93,000. I met with them. After a few discussions, then they came in here, met with us. The board expressed how it wasn't gonna work and we were gonna have to come up with something else. So I take that back, 93,000. Then they came in with a $96,000 change order and we said that, we need to just work together and come up with something else. End result is that they came back with roughly a $30,000 change order. So $60,000 can be used towards further things in the project and anything other than that one change order. So due diligence on the board's part and, we got 60 grand freed up. And we'll see if we have to do that again when there's another change order. But anyway, wanted to get everybody up to speed on that. And I appreciate, by the way, the willingness of the engineer firm and the contractors to work with us on that too. I mean, they had to figure out where to cut that money. So We appreciate it.
Well, we came with the idea. so.
We sure did. Yeah. We
that's
came up
true.
with the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, it was, the board went to work on it and, our position was it's our job to try to use money as appropriately as we can. So.
Does make you wonder why nobody else thought of it.
Doesn't it? You're
Add
welcome.
that to my resume.
Yes, indeed.
Red engineering.
Thank you for doing that, that's,
You're welcome, guys. That's the stuff that the public should be hearing, right?
Yep.
Instead of all of the negative, like
Exactly.
that's a good thing. So a lot of positive things happening. So we're optimistic. Good things are happening.
Getting out to the public?
What's that?
How's that getting out to the public?
Just did it.
Just did it. This is how. Yeah.
I can put it in flash email
We-
if you want. but
We
that's-
can actually, you know what, I wouldn't mind, I guess, but honestly, a good share of the public didn't even know it was happening because most of them don't attend the meetings, so
Right.
I would say word of mouth is how it can get out to the public. And,
We had someone who talked about activities and other things that are not part of the job.
of what, I'm sorry, go again,
Actually, Monica's probably the one that's most responsible for communicating.
yeah. So there is the Canaan, Friends of Canaan Helping Canaan, Facebook page, maybe we could just make a mention of it on
But
there.
we can't put it in flash. We'll just say
We can
that
put it
we're
in
working to keep the costs down and thanks to
Yeah.
some a good thought process by the board of selectmen. They were able to do it.
standard place.
Excellent, absolutely.
Have to be controlled.
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay, acceptance of and hearing on uses of 136,000 New Hampshire DOT grant for highways and 124,000 New Hampshire DOT grants for bridges.
Okay, so under state law, we can't spend any more than what we have budgeted. And any money that's left over goes back in the general fund. We use it as the unassigned fund balance. It supports capital reserves. There is an exception to the rules, and that is if you get unanticipated funds, then you can have a hearing, say how much has come in, and as part of the hearing, what your intents are for those funds. We have already received $136,000 in the last month for highway functions. And I've been advised this week, we're gonna receive in December, $124,000 for bridges. So tonight will be the first night of starting a process for a hearing, and over the next week or two, we'll advertise it so people know the proposed uses for the highway money. Roughly 40% of it will go for highway construction next year. 60% will go towards equipment replacement to get rid of this front end loading problem we got on equipment.
Yeah.
And it would basically fund the cost of 2 additional trucks to get them. So that's where the 136 going. So roughly 80,000 bucks of it is going into equipment purchasing. And some of it's not new, it's used. Most of it's used, as a matter of fact. And then the rest of it is gonna go into road reconstruction and probably for paving next year. On the 124 for bridges, we haven't talked about bridges yet. And when we do, we have a problem on bridges. We need more money on bridges. And that's it right there. So that money is coming from DOT. It's 4 bridges. I had a discussion yesterday for an hour with the state bridge engineer that runs the bridge program, and he thinks it's a great idea. So that's what we'll be warning, here, we're getting 136, and spend it on equipment and road paving. We're getting 124, we want to spend it on bridges, and when we get the bridges, we'll talk about it, but basically, it's gonna be the transfer station bridge. That's it.
All right,
So this is the first night of the hearing. There'll be at least one more night.
is there any questions on that? Good to go, okay. Next on the agenda is the report on the EDA flood mitigation grant.
Oh, good. There's the bad news. We've been working on an EDA grant for the better part of 3 years. At one point, it was a $6 million program, and dropped down to a $4 million program. And Monday it disappeared. So We had several major floods, 2011, 2017, 2019. The typical flood, like the 2017 flood, 2011 flood, did $730,000 of property damage in the village. Governor put together a task force and met here in Canaan, come up with a solution of how to fix the problem so they don't have to keep repairing the problem. And he called together about 5 federal agencies and all the state agencies to come up with a solution. So we came up with a solution of how to fix it, and we funded that. The town of Canaan, out of FEMA money that we received for reimbursement, we funded the engineering study to tell us how to fix the problem. And out of the governor's group that came in here, EDA, Economic Development Administration, federal, was the only group that theoretically had the money to do it. They had a block of money for flood mitigation, to fix flooding. And there was money available, so they were the ones that gave us the numbers. We prepared the application, met with the state of New Hampshire, did partnership deals with the state of New Hampshire to move almost $2 million of the state funding into it. Move in almost $3 million worth of federal funding from EDA into it. And our share of doing 2 bridges and 2 trestles was going to be $600,000. And we had the money, got it out of FEMA, out of reimbursements from FEMA. So we already went through all the preliminary engineering. There's a process, a federal process, which is difficult. Where you gotta have it, send it out from a peer review to 3 engineering firms to determine whether it's the most cost-effective solution and it's the most effective solution. So we passed all of that. Then all we had to do is fill in the grant number, send it into EDA to get approval. That was in March. So in April, I couldn't get a hold of the guy in Maine that was running the program. Tried all through April and May, couldn't get a hold of him. Finally, in June, I was getting desperate because we have this grant that has to go in and to be processed before the end of the fiscal year. And we needed to get it in, and we needed a grant number. All the paperwork was done, all the reviews were done. So in the 1st of July, I called Philadelphia. So he was operating out of Maine. Philadelphia said, and I was calling, I was getting his cell phone number, I was getting his office number. And it said, you reached the phone of Alan Brightman and I'm not currently available, leave a message. I can't believe he must. Called Philadelphia, and Philadelphia said, oh, he retired. When did he retire? 1st of April. I said, nobody bothered to call. I said, well, I'm calling about this project. She said, we don't have that project. So by the 1st of September, the answer was, and we don't have any money left in that account anyway, so we can't do it. So there was a certain amount of displeasure saying, look, we're screwed. We're losing property value every time we have one of these major floods. You got to do something. We were told to do it, call the governor's office, do whatever you want to do. We got to come up with funding. So we said, okay, we'll look at doing it as an economic development program. Which we did and finished that up. Well, we started it on Monday, but at the end of the meeting, it does not look good to get it from EDA. We have to show that we would add, this is a grant for $1 million. It's dropped also from 5 million, 4 million, 2 million, $1 million from them. In order to get it, we would have to show a lot of jobs, 25 or 30 jobs created and or retained as a result of spending this money. Plus significant private sector investment in the village as a result of doing the project. So we have been working and all the paperwork's been done by the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Council. And I talked to the director and said, so what do you think? She says, we can give them a quick review. So we got an agreement out of EDA. We send the quick review down. We do have that data, interestingly enough. So we're going to send it down. They're going to review it. But I think the probability of getting it is zilch. Which means that in that project, as it was envisioned this summer, there was a replacement of Gristmill Hill Bridge, replacement of Potato Road Bridge, replacement of the transfer station bridge, replacement of the upper trestle by Williamsfield and the lower trestle behind Barney's old house. 5 bridges.
5 projects.
5
Yeah.
projects.
Yep.
Okay, so we work closely with the head of the bridge section for DOT. So we got out the phone, with EDA, and we sat for another hour or two to try to figure it out. So I need to ask you two, because Scott's not here, but I'll get his answers anyway, but. We have set as a priority, the priorities for these bridges. Are composed of two things. What's the greatest need from a public safety point of view? And the second one is, what do we got engineering for? What do we got money for? What can we actually do quickest? So it may be all well and good to say Bridge 1 is the highest need, but if we don't have any engineering done and we don't have any money for it, it doesn't work. So we had in the past said that the first priority was do the flood proof, because we could lose another 700,000 in new buildings that have new businesses, and the old buildings that have new businesses in them could lose those businesses. So the priority was still to do the flood proof. I think the second priority was to do Potato Road, because Potato Road has all the engineering done and it could go out to bid tomorrow and be in construction next spring. Third priority was to do Gristmill, because we had a hole in the bridge. And the fourth priority was to do transfer station, although there was some feeling by the board that the transfer station was the least safe of all the bridges we had. So now how does this change? Well, first of all, the trestles are out until we find a new source of funds. That doesn't mean it's going away, it just means it's not going to be done in the next 2 years. Because God knows we spent enough money on the engineering shows it works, we just got to find the right funding source to do it. Bridges are ranked by the state, so there's you got scored. They're scored every year, and they're investigated every year. And we've investigated all these bridges. By the way, they investigated the transfer station bridge too. So the transfer station bridge wasn't a state bridge until a year and a half ago. We put it on the list so we can get 80% funding on it. But there's no money attached to it. There's nothing in the budget for that bridge. They were going to try to help us by moving the bridge from the non-existent North Larry Road Bridge and put it onto the transfer station bridge, which would help, but it doesn't pay for the bridge. So we're out, can't do the trestles this year. And we have significant state money, federal money through the state to pay for Gristmill and Potato Road. And I mean significant money. It's like $2.5 million to those two bridges. And our share of doing all of that would be $130,000.
That funding is still there.
Still it. And we've already got, that's already been awarded, so that's not in question. So that means that we would make the most sense to do Potato Road first, because we got all the engineering done, it's ready to go. The engineering is ready for review by the state on Gristmill. So that's underway right now. Told them to go ahead and send it into the state 4 weeks ago. So they're reviewing it now. That could be out to bid next spring, but realistically, it's not going to be awarded until the next construction cycle. It's the best guess. And it might happen next year, but it really depends on whether people can move quick enough and get the materials. So that one has, both of those together only require 130 out of our pocket. We had about 750,000 plus that grant. So we got $900,000, which is available for bridges. So wouldn't take much of our money to pull that off. So the rest was supposed to go for the trestles, because they're the only money we had on the trestles with the EDA money. DOT can't pay for those trestles out of their funds. We still got transfer station. So transfer station road was going to be over $1 million for the bridge. It's going to be 70 feet long, and it was going to be at least 24 feet wide, 2 lanes, ability to have 2 trucks pass in the night on the same bridge. It's an expensive bridge. Higher up, so all the water would go under the bridge and wouldn't dam up. Free span bridge, nothing, no supports in the middle. It was an expensive bridge. So C.R. Willicke is the state engineer that runs the program, and I spent hours on it yesterday. And we couldn't figure it out. We could not come up with enough money out of our funds. Anyway, you slice it. We have $800,000, and they want to give us $100,000 for that bridge. That's $900,000. Doesn't get us to $1 million. And it was north of $1 million, it was like $1.2 million in order to do that
Million two
bridge.
and change, I think. Yep.
And we would have to wait another 3 years to do it, and it just was not working. And sometime around 10 o'clock this morning, I said, oh, wait a minute, there was another way to do bridges. And that is, you can ignore the state. Go hire a bridge company, put in a bridge. Or a mixture. So in the past, we've hired one of these companies to do the bridge at the end of Goose Pond. And it was Hanson Bridge Company out of Springfield, New Hampshire. Wasn't much cheaper, but it was somewhat cheaper. And it had to meet all the state standards when we did that bridge. So I called them up this morning and said, so I got a question for you. I need a bridge, it needs to be 70 feet long, 2 lanes. Has to have a height from stream bed to the top of X. Can you give me at least a rough idea what it's gonna cost me to do that bridge, soup to nuts on the bridge? So he asked me 4 or 5 questions, said $250,000.
Say again, 250,000. Not 1.2 million.
There's a big difference there.
So he is drafting a proposal for us to do that bridge with a 70-foot long bridge. Two lanes.
Hmm.
Of sufficient strength to carry all of our heavy equipment across because it goes to the gravel pit.
Can you ask for estimates on the gristmill and potato bridges?
So
No, he asked somebody.
I asked
He
the same
asked,
thing.
you can't.
Hang on,
It's all,
hold your thought,
If I can buy those 2 bridges for 130
right?
using the state
Yeah.
money, it doesn't pay me to work
Right.
anyplace else.
yeah.
So, because I asked the same thing, and he explained it to me earlier at the capital improvement, with the funding in place, we're gonna be 130 out of that. The real one that was costing us the money is a transfer station bridge. We had a quick question, Mike.
So, yeah,
Hold
go
your
ahead.
thought, Wesley. What you got?
When the engineer did the bridge, that was $1 million.
Hmm.
Did that count raising the road and all of it, or was that just the bridge?
no,
For-
as a matter of fact, it precluded raising the road from the bridge to the transfer station because that's an overflow area. And it doesn't do anything from the bridge out to the main road. The only place that floods is on the corner. It was only for the bridge.
So we had, somebody else had to fill it in for the $1.2 million, whatever it was.
No, different.
No, originally what we were gonna get, 80% of it was gonna be covered by the state.
That's not what I was asking.
Okay, I don't
I'm just
understand. Go ahead.
asking, The bid that you had before, you were saying not the soup.
Yeah.
Was it for just the bridge was $1.2 million, or was it for raising the whole road? Reconstruction of
Okay, it was not for raising the whole road. It was just for the bridge and it was not a bid.
Okay, that's all I was.
Yep.
I was just
Okay.
curious.
No, that's fine.
It's a good question, Mike.
It's.
That could be
that's
that
a lot
$1 million,
of
right?
difference in number.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not the first time. There's at least, the Genfields just did a bridge the same way.
Yeah.
And other
That's-
towns around us have used a company, either Hanson or somebody like Hanson to do it. You gotta weigh out the benefits each time. So right now, what I can report is as of sometime this afternoon. On the bridge capital improvement program. We would go with either Hanson or somebody like Hanson with a price tag that's gonna be in that vicinity. So if you assume that 250 is the right number, and he's gonna send us in a very specific proposal, which I don't know that we'll release it to the public, but we'll use it at least to get several proposals.
Hmm.
So, we use that number, and we use the other 2 bridge numbers, so we should be able to do within the next 3 years. All of Gristmill, all of Potato Road, and all of the transfer station bridge. And the only one delayed might be Gristmill, so we could actually start Potato Road first, go to transfer station second, do Gristmill third. And the total cost, was something like 130 plus 250, 354, about $500,000. Which leaves in our capital reserve account for bridges, $450,000.
That should help out the water pretty good.
Can't do that.
Yeah, right.
But it does mean if we come up with any type of funding program on the trestles, we already got at least a 1/3 match on the trestles in the account.
Yeah.
And no other major bridge projects on the horizon for these 5 to 7 years.
Well,
So-
I'll believe it when I see the hard estimate for the 200.
Yeah, I agree, but at least it gives us a game plan that we don't have now. So
Better
this
than
is to
news this morning.
report on A, we don't have a floodproofing project anymore. B, we're still trying to, and it looks like we should be able to pull off minimum, I know we can pull off a minimum of 2 bridges. It looks likely we can pull off 3 bridges within the next 18 months to 2 years. Which would be transfer station, grist mill, and potato road. And Ned, I'll fill you in whenever you're ready. Because I won't be around for the tail end of it. I won't be around for most of this.
Wesley, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just, when you do the transfer station bridge, you said they were raising the bridge up.
Yes,
Now that the $250,000 that you're talking for the bridge, is that counting raising the road?
yeah, you would have a ramp up on both sides.
Yeah,
So you're just gonna go up and down?
Well,
You're
it's not
gonna-
straight up in the air. We're not raising it up 10 or 15 feet. We're only raising it up 4 or 5.
and it's gonna be 70 feet long. So it's gonna be a
In
a
a span of.
slope
Right,
instead of
it's
a
gonna have-
ramp.
it's
Yeah.
gonna- You're gonna go up.
Yeah,
The flooding on that bridge, the problem is you got 4 box culverts. And I think the.
I know.
Yeah.
the bridge.
And, well, I wasn't talking to the rest of the crowd, but, so the width of the box, I think is only like 6 feet or something like that,
Yeah,
for each
6
box. So you got a tree that's over 6 feet, you got a plug bridge.
Yeah.
And it's washed out at least a couple of times every year, so it isn't just infrequent. So you need a clear span bridge that has big enough capacity, and all the hydrology work has been done, they know how big it has to be and all the rest. Take all that hydrology work that was done by HEB, our engineering firm, give it to Hanson and have them give us a proposal.
so I guess that's the answer. It's based off the same engineering footprint, Wes.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
even know what the other one was. I heard him say that it was going up. I didn't know if we had to raise the road or.
No, from what I understand, Wes, gathering this up is they were planning on really lengthening that bridge because of that, having to raise it up. That, because I would say the same thing. You don't want a ramp there. You gotta have a slope, right? So from what I've gathered I mean, it makes sense as far as anything makes sense today, right? So don't hold me on that one, but
Yeah, I get it.
I'm with you. Yeah,
Hey, speaking about bridges, has grist mill been reposted for weight yet?
Signs are over at Bob's office, but they haven't gone up yet.
boy, him and I are on the same page tonight, aren't we? Yes, sir. Nice. Good question, Stephen.
You guys are a tag team, that's it.
Yeah.
You have the answers, Mike, at least for.
Well, I only know because I saw the signs.
So anybody who doesn't know what we're talking there, we voted, I don't know, within the last couple months or so, that we were going to decrease the weight limit on the Gristmill Hill Bridge to an E rating.
But it does lead to one more comment. So I said the state does inspections on all these bridges every year.
Mm.
So the worst bridge is Potato Road Bridge.
Mm.
Which has a lower rating on that than we even put onto the Gristmill.
Mm.
So I said, well, how do you come up with this? And he says, well, we have this rating system. He said, it has to be, in order to be on the red list, it has to have an average score of 4 out of 10 on all the components that they look at. So what's Potato Road? He says 3.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Great. So what's Christmas? He said 4, so it's on the red list. Great. I said, what's the transfer station bridge? He said 6. Now, anybody that's gone over the transfer station bridge, you might question whether that really ought to be a 6.
Well, it's not so much the bridge, it's that it's getting on the bridge and the guardrail more than
Right.
anything else. So I
Right,
mean,
but that is part of the review.
Yeah.
They're supposed to look at that as well. So in any event, we laugh about it a lot, but the long and short of this is a way to take care of the problem.
I will say, so everyone has an idea, from what I understand, I don't know, within the last few months, we voted to get some material for the railings on the transfer station bridge.
They serve it.
Yep,
which we actually had in-house already, so.
absolutely. We had the log, the timber here, we've had that milled. It's had a chance to dry a bit and they started on that today. I will tell you, I personally walked through those box culverts. I don't know, fair amount, because I take Trotter down there all the time. They're not falling apart inside. Yeah, it's not a good setup. I think the main thing that's wrong with that bridge is just like Mike said, it holds back debris. I don't think, I'm not a bridge inspector. So this is not a technical statement. This is my opinion, just for the record, so nobody comes back and beats me up. But from an average Joe looking at it, it's not crumbling apart underneath there. There's not a bunch of rebar exposed. There's not huge cracks. So it really is the top side that you see and the edges of the pavement, and that is the immediate fix. Now, again, with that said, I'm not a bridge expert, so if it falls in, don't come back on me.
The other problem is it's a one-lane bridge.
Right, exactly. It's just not adequate. But because I do so much walking, I've been down and around the Gristman Hill Bridge a bit. I'm going on what the highway department observed when they did a repair. That one is crumbling from underneath. And the state tells us that the Potato Road Bridge is
Time to
just
move on.
about not in existence. So nice job.
Time to
Thank
move
you.
on.
We had that agreement to begin with. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen. FEMA and flood mitigation grant.
On that.
We just did that one too. So here's ambulance training incentives. So,
John, you want to just go through that quick?
yeah,
Yeah, so I gave you the proposal, and what the proposal is for is basically to reimburse somebody if they take an EMT class or an EMR class. And they want to become a member. So it's kind of an incentive, but what they have to do is also give us what we want to do is do some kind of a contract. So they can give us a certain length of time. So in other words, we don't want to pay $1,500 for a class. They have to pass it first of all and become actually registered and get their New Hampshire state license. We don't want to pay somebody for that and then all of a sudden, a month later, they're gone. You know, they either move or go somewhere else or get hired somewhere else. And so we just want some documentation saying that, we'll pay for the class, but you have to give us at least 2 years.
some sort of.
So
a
John,
commitment.
are we paying up front for the class or are they paying up front?
No, well, some people have paid for it already and then we'll reimburse them.
Okay.
But they have to pass it first anyway, so a lot of times they have to actually pay for it up front. So, and then
Is that something we reemburse them
Yeah,
after
and
the
then
2-year
we'll
period
reimburse,
or is
yeah.
it?
And then we'll reimburse them, as long as they pass it and they're able to get their license.
In some cases, though, we have to pay for the course. We don't
Right.
take the-
Okay.
Right, so that's something that we are kind of, we'll figure that out as we go, but we just need something so we can show them it's like, yeah, we'll pay for it, but you actually.
So I'm perfectly fine with that. Mike, I just have a question. We've proposed this for a number of licensing and things with the associates in the town. Do we have a standard contract that we use and has it been successful that?
So far,
Okay,
you still got Jordan.
Yeah,
yeah. Is she the only one though?
No, but she.
I mean, Jason's going through it for
Right.
the water and
Just
sewer.
started, but the long and short of it has been successful.
I guess.
There
it's
is
some-
some risk, but it's not a hell of a lot of risk. It's probably
right.
no more than
I guess,
$2,000.
what's the
a year.
retribution that we have if they do walk away after we pay and take the
Well,
training?
nothing that's terrific. We could take them to court.
Right, which is.
But I don't think we're gonna do it, but
Yeah.
most of these people are doing it because they want to do service, they just can't afford up front the course.
Understood.
So it's us absorbing some risk, knowing that these people just don't have the resources to do it. And
Good faith,
in
basically, right?
good faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good faith contract. It's a signed contract, but because I had asked that, I don't know, within the last year or so, Stephen, and that, so.
I mean, we do it with police too, so.
Yeah, we do it, and we
Fair
have
amount of people.
had it reviewed by council, there's things we can do, things we can't do. But the ones we've used so far, quite our lawyers are fine.
Okay. I'm good with it.
Okay.
We have the language already drafted, I gotta sit down with you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And at some point, Mike, I guess, just it's nothing, I don't know, at some point, put it on your list, pull that contract out, and when I come in the office, just put it in front of me. I'd like to just look it over.
Yeah, well, the one I'm gonna show you is the one in existence for somebody else, so I gotta rewrite that.
Yeah.
Don't come until next week.
When you've got it, hand it to me. Yeah, put it on your short list. Yeah. Is there any questions on that? Okay, request for fuel card for the private transport with the ambulance.
So
Yeah.
I'll address it. The service, the ambulance, emergency medical services is undertaking a profit-making venture. which is transport people on private pay or private insurance or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's not the same as an emergency response.
Right.
It was the original game plan, whatever it was, 5 or 6 years ago,
Yeah.
when this place was built,
The building.
was to do that. And for various reasons, it didn't happen. Now it is happening and it started.
Mhm.
And in the first week, you had enough time, would have paid.
We
for
did,
itself.
we did 3 transfers and that amounted to over $5,000 for billing. Just for 3 transfers. We've actually had a call every day. We haven't been able to do all those calls, but we're working on doing that, so.
Staffing issues, John?
That's great.
Yeah. I just have to get more staffing in place, which we're waiting for, and that's
Yeah.
fine. We'll get that. We actually had a call today that would have taken us to CMC to pick a patient up, bring them to DH for an appointment and take them back to CMC.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we're kind of asking for a fuel card too, because
Sure.
that's.
So you-
long.
Are you actually asking for 3 cards, one for each ambulance?
No, there's just one ambulance being used for transfers.
I reviewed it with Gloria, and Gloria doesn't like any type of bank cards or credit cards or anything else, which I understand.
Mm.
Her feeling, and I think it's the right thing, is we go to Irving, we
Yep.
do business with, get them to issue us a straight gas card.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm fine with that.
There's enough Irving stations within the
Yes.
general,
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
risk
you-
except
you
for
can
gas,
always
and it'll have a limit
find
on
an
how much it can be.
Yeah.
So and I'm sure they would do it, we're one of their biggest customers, so. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah,
And it would be staying with the ambulance itself, not with the driver?
it'll be with the ambulance itself, yes. And it most likely will come out, what it'll do is it'll come out, when they're done with the transfer, that card will come out, go in the office, and then the next transfer, then that card will, if we know it's gonna be a long distance. Like today, that transfer would have been a long distance, we probably would have had to fuel up somewhere.
right? So that's the thing, card stays here locked up
Oh,
in
yeah,
office
yeah.
during
It doesn't
transport, goes in
go
the
in.
ambulance.
Well, is that realistic? I mean, you guys are, you're dropping stuff and doing a transfer, is somebody gonna remember to pick up the card? I mean,
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the things that they're gonna have to remember for, they,
Okay.
A
they'll have-
general
they
I
have
like that, I
paperwork.
just. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
if
have
it's realistic
paperwork
in
they
real
have
life.
to take with them anyway.
There's a lot of rules currently involved with all this stuff. That's
Yeah.
the rule.
All right.
That'll be on a immediate checklist before
Yeah.
you get in the vehicle sort of thing.
Yeah.
Take it with you.
And Gloria and I talked, well, how do you share accountability, not going into somebody's car? The answer is easy. If you got slips coming in from Irving, and you got your sheets coming in, your payroll sheets,
Yep.
for private transport,
Yeah.
dates are gonna match up.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
know where that
We
ambulance is
know
going.
who's gonna have that card.
Yeah, and we know where the ambulance is going.
yeah.
Reality, it's not gonna be used, I mean, you're full when you're here.
Yes.
I mean, it's very rarely you're gonna go through a tank of gas and a transfer and not be
Right,
back here
hoping
anyway.
we
So,
really, Yeah, don't
You
have.
had one that was even further though. Capital Medical Center. What was that?
Yeah, there was one actually this weekend, but we didn't have an ambulance available because we had all 3 of them out anyway. That was from DH to Danvers, Mass.
yeah, well, I mean, I was talking to Jordan and I was like, even
Right.
if you're going from DHMC to Boston and back,
Yeah.
you're not gonna go through a tank of gas or. So-
No, it's just that if we have to go to like, if we have to go to CMC, then back to Hitchcock and then back to CMC to take the patient back. And then come back. We probably will make it, we should still have fuel left.
I would
Just
ask
in-
that it not be the norm. I mean, buy gas, you
Oh,
can-
yeah, right. Oh, yeah, no, it's not gonna be something that's gonna be used.
Emergency use only, and
Right.
Jordan gave another good scenario. So you take a situation like that, and then while you're out there, you get a call.
Speaking of.
Yeah, right, then you get a call where you can now make another transport while you're out.
Well, that's the.
That, Stephen, that really was, when
Yep.
Jordan said that, it kind of made sense. If
Yeah.
you've done one of these long transports and you get a call to make another one while you're out.
She's in
Make it.
looking for the card, right?
Yeah, I know. Wesley, what's up?
I guess I don't see why it's a big deal to get the card.
I don't think it is.
Doesn't make-
Yeah.
I mean,
I think-
everybody's worried about people stealing gas. I really don't think people on EMS are gonna steal gas.
I don't think, I can speak for myself personally. I'm not worried about anybody stealing gas, but I am worried about making sure I know where that card is.
Right.
It's my job. So I'll ask 100 questions about where that card's gonna go. So you don't ask me 100 when I see you at the store. But I'm with you. It's a, I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, I think you'll find you can probably make that card so it will only work with that ambulance. and
Right,
all
you can
that.
associate it to certain, I agree, Wes. Yep. All right,
It's been a just to throw out there, like specific, like Irving.
Mhm.
And then we match up like receipts and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what we just discussed.
It'll be in Irving.
I want to make sure you're all set.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Jordan.
You just-
Tomorrow.
Jordan, we throw your name on the list just because you did make comments in the meeting. Thanks.
See, now you can sign in.
Sorry.
That'll teach you.
All right, if there's no other questions on that, I think we're all in agreement with it. Is that something that we have
Need a
to
motion?
make a motion? All right,
I'll make a motion to approve.
I would second the
Go for it.
motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Okay,
Tomorrow.
thank you, Jordan.
Bye, Jordan.
Have a good night. Drive careful. MS1 approval.
Yep. So you got a 9-page packet. It's a report for the state that has to be filed now. It states everything that's going on with our tax base for the town, how much taxable property we have, by what classes. How much of it is in current use, how much of it is in violation of current use. How much is getting exemptions, credits and all the rest of the stuff, how much of it is payment in lieu of taxes. Like from Enfield or from the state of New Hampshire. So those are all things that have to be filed every year. It sets the dollar amount of tax base that you can collect taxes on. So to give you an idea of what that is, it's on page 2, 6 in the one you got. This is the only official one that I gotta have you sign. Those are, I printed those out, they're the same numbers.
So page 6 here,
Yeah, 2 of 6.
2 of 6.
Yeah.
Okay,
There should be a line. 21A, do you see that?
454 million.
Yep. So that's what we got for taxable property in the town of Canaan, it's $450,496,000. It's up about 1% from last year. So, and I need to get this filed before the end of the month. So that it can be used to set our tax rate in October, November. Don't sign that one.
where are you seeing that, Steve? Page 2,
Right there above the gray
Yeah.
box.
gotcha.
So I need to get this signed. We submit this to DRA, they review it, and assuming you've signed it, they'll approve it, and this becomes part of the tax rate setting process.
So why doesn't this increase at the same relative rate of CPI? Or more with building and everything else going on in town?
Current use. This has been a wild current use year. Okay.
Of property coming out of. our
Yes,
current use,
it'll
yeah.
go in, it will actually get better because of all the penalties we got this year. Unless people put it all back into current use. They take property out of current use to do a subdivision or whatever. All right. If they don't put it back in after, which means you gotta have certain acreage. Then that means that'll be taxable next year, which will be helpful, but doesn't help us this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, I'm anticipating next year a minimum of 1.5% increase in tax base. That's conservative, and this is 1%, but there were a lot of offsets. The other thing, there was more. Like on trailers and stuff like that, when we went up on the valuation of trailers, more people filed for exemptions for elderly and handicapped because of that.
Mhm.
Where they didn't have that much to worry about before.
Right.
Now they do because they're above the threshold.
Okay.
So that also impacted it. So there's not much we can do about it this year, but it's better than nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
1% increase. The highest I've ever seen since I've been here was a 3% increase. In 1 year.
So we need the non-draft copy to come in and sign it, or you guys?
Got it here. And I'll
So
have-
just to give you guys an idea of the current use change revenue. Last year, year to date, we collected $44,627 from people taking property out of current use and paying the penalty. This year, we collected 250,000. So we needed it this year.
And we
So-
thank you so much.
More good things to be thankful for that it comes in this year. Now, anybody wants to step aside at some point and talk to me about what I think is gonna happen because of draining Goose Pond and all of that,
Let's push that in over here.
we will. But feel free to talk to me. I've got some thought processes and like some community involvement on that as well. So, because it's gonna go the opposite. Okay. There you go, my man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions on the MS1? All right, next on the agenda, we are talking about paving the basketball court at Williams Field.
It's a collaborative effort.
Yes,
So,
so,
2 weeks ago, I got a request for the final report from Arthur Williams Foundation. To report on how we did, we were going to repair the infield, which was done on the ball field. And how did the paving job go on the basketball court? I said, what paving job? So we have received funds to get it paved. Before I submit the report, I'm gonna try, you're gonna try, one of us is gonna try
we're
to
on
get a
it.
contractor to come in and pave it right away.
Yeah,
So
we're getting bids.
money is not the issue.
Oh.
We got a grant to do it. We just gotta get it. Well, it's always an issue, but
Right.
it's not the predominant.
Yeah,
issue.
Williams Foundation has already put the money up front.
I just need permission, or you need, one of us needs the permission to get the contractor into pay.
So is that from us, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would put a motion, what, to
To
get a
contract to
bid.
have the basketball court repaired.
yeah, and to get get bids for contracts to have the basketball court.
They'll be verbal. We just need to get this done as quick as
Yeah.
possible.
I'm all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is. Yeah. So more good stuff, right? It's
By the way,
happening,
I
guys.
think we're doing remarkably well to get through this list.
Bam, my friend. I do too. Okay, any questions on that?
No, but we're talking about Williams Field.
Yeah.
I was informed by my wife that there was some hubbub about some playground equipment
Yeah.
today. I don't,
Yeah, it's been an ongoing issue. It's been true for 3 years, okay? It's the old Barney dinosaur slide, okay?
Okay, gotcha.
We keep covering. We want to replace, put it back. It's got a broken piece in it. There's an outfit and we have a new recreation director. It's on her agenda to
Hmm.
get Barney fixed.
Okay.
And we're gonna go to White Mountain fiberglass over in Rudney. And we believe that they will fix it for us. I priced replacing it. It was a very popular toy. How's 25 or 30,000 grab you?
Yeah.
So we couldn't do it. So, but we're looking at maybe 3,000 or 4,000 to fix it. We have the funding in Williamsfield to cover it.
Yeah.
So we just gotta get it over there, get it fixed and get it back. There's 2 brackets that look like S's that go down into concrete. And those brackets are the only way to connect Barney to firmament. We keep covering it up with mulch and people keep tearing it up off. We put yellow tape around it. But if I dig it up, it defeats the whole purpose of trying to replace it. So I don't know what else I can do.
Let's do a temporary structure around it. Exactly. It's kind of,
You find somebody to do that.
yeah, I could get, it could be a very simple.
I'll
something.
get a price note.
Huh? Yeah,
I'll get a price.
okay, good.
Thank you, Stephen. Sounds good.
What's that?
Yeah.
Bollards.
Right, yeah. good.
I
What
think
are we
there's more
doing?
a concern of people tripping over them, or falling over them, using it as they're not intended to.
You good, Stephen?
Yep.
Okay, anyone else? Next on the agenda is vacation carryover. We've had a request from some employees not able to use up all of their vacation and have asked if they can carry that over. Anything we need to talk further about, or Stephen and I?
So we've allowed it and we've not allowed it in certain services.
Gloria.
I know who it is. But we've allowed it with Sam. In
We
the
allowed
past.
it with all department heads, and then we extended it down to sergeants and department heads.
Okay,
She's a department head,
right.
and she is stressed.
So what she's asking is to be able to carry that over into next year.
How much is she trying to carry over?
I don't know, whatever. It'd be blanket, but she's gotta use it within 6 months.
Okay,
Right, but then we run into, and I'm not in disagreement with it, I'm just trying to look forward down the road of what we're gonna be dealing with. Then if she couldn't use her vacation time that she had allotted this year, we're carrying it over to have potentially double of it next year. How much are we carrying over the year after?
You
And
can't do that. I mean, this is a 1-year carryover. It's only under the circumstances where people just haven't got the time to take vacation time. So if you look at the town office in particular, it's a nightmare because there is no Sherelle
oh, I
and a lot of new.
I get it.
There's a lot of new activity.
I get it.
going, So.
Yeah. a lot of missing parts. So I guess that's kind of. I don't think I'm ready to give a solid answer on it tonight because I'd like to know how much time is requested to carry over. And I'd like to have a little bit of a discussion on it. Not necessarily for this specific instance, but so we can set some sort of a plan with ourselves going forward. Because it seems like this is a question that comes
You
up.
guys
quite a
can
bit.
talk to me afterward or tomorrow. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
And I'll leave it in the box.
that's fine.
I'm
That,
not, yeah, I'm not looking at throw on tilt. I mean,
me either.
so
Yeah,
It's really important for morale.
I understand.
no, listen, I understand that, but it's important for morale for the whole town to make sure I'm doing my job, so. All right, any questions? Okay,
So no action on that one.
no action on that one.
Roger?
Roger, he's here. He's got it. Yep. Cash balance and service agencies and lake requests.
Okay, if you take out what we gotta pay the school district and all the bills we have and all the new trucks we're buying, we're still holding almost $1.5 million. Usually we pay the warrant article service agencies in October. It's almost October. And we are getting calls. We require a letter specifically requesting before we pay it. But I'd recommend that we pay it once we get the letters in. Because we're holding heavy in cash.
How much does that usually run?
34 grand, plus the lake associations. So it's 38 grand.
Okay,
I'm okay with it.
yeah, I put in a motion to pay it when it comes in, based on those numbers.
There's one that is not listed on there. BMSI, anybody know what those letters are? It's the accounting system for the town. It is notorious for being a somewhat antiquated accounting system for the town, but it works. So don't take it if it doesn't cause you problems.
So what are you saying? We're gonna owe money there as well?
No, I'm telling you that we gotta switch it over if we want to survive to a cloud-based system. So it's the same system. But it requires a subscription fee of $2,495 a year. To have all of our stuff stored online in the cloud. And the first time we lose our data,
So does this affect our contract with Twin Bridges?
it
Because they
does-
support our hardware systems and
It does only in a sense that they really want us to do this.
Right,
The problem is the BMSI is it's an older company that doesn't do anything in terms of what is currently required for security of systems and all that.
Got it.
So in order to make it work, they're gonna put everything in the cloud and keep people out of the cloud.
So Twin Bridges is required,
It's
is
a
requesting
paper.
this?
No, Gloria is the one that's requesting it.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is a consensus, and Gloria has been happy with BMSI since Guy was a boy, so. This is a necessary thing to do, and it helps with our security, it helps keep Twin State happy, because it means less chance of us getting hacked, and there's more security on the.
So is there any savings from Twin Bridges by doing this?
No,
Is what I'm asking.
no,
So it's $2,400 a year added to the Twin Bridge contract that we pay.
2,400 added, there's a line item in account in bookkeeping.
Yep.
And it would add $2,400 to that next year, but it would come out as an overrun this year.
so potentially though, there could be a savings with Twin Bridges, because if they don't have to come in and troubleshoot stuff because it's in the cloud, does that?
Here's where the savings would come in. First time we're hacked
Yeah,
and it creates an emergency situation where they gotta come in and work for weeks to fix it,
right,
we won't have to do that.
that's what I mean.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
it says. It doesn't mean their contracts are that.
Right,
It
but
just
their
Will be added.
additionals
Right,
won't,
exactly.
won't be there.
I'm good with that.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion on that one too?
I'll make a motion to move BMSI software to the cloud.
I'd second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sounds like the ayes have it. Okay,
Do we need to do trucks or have we already done trucks?
I
I'm good
don't
on it.
think we need to. We've already gone over it up here, so
There is nobody currently doing the contracts for police and TA.
we mean nobody, like no firms
Hasn't
out
been
there, and none of
assigned.
us.
Hasn't been
Okay,
assigned. Talked with Stephen this morning about it, talked to you about it. I
Mm.
haven't talked to Scott, but you know as soon as the other big. My recommendations were just use basically the same contracts and. In the past, I never did my own. Our attorney did it, and our attorney always looks over, we don't have many contracts, for those two we do. We have one actually for the highway superintendent as well. So my recommendation is to give the current police chief contract and the current TA contract. So it's not specific to either me or to Sam. And give it to Sean, get him to look it over and say, yeah, fine, and then get it signed.
just make some adjustments and amendments.
Yeah, but minor, I'm not like,
Right.
change much.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That makes the most sense with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm good.
Okay,
Yep.
motion on that one too?
Yeah, you have a question?
I have a question on that. So talking about police contracts, I may be missing the point here, but I was under the impression that as the chief changes out, there was talk about reorganization. Is that still in the works?
As far as reorganization of the police station or,
Police department,
okay,
or I knew PD was under consideration for police reorg. If that's not the case, then I'm not keeping up with current stuff.
So,
I think there's a thought process to modernize the thought process within the police department. So,
Yeah.
you know, in police in a new, more modern way than some of the ways we have been running the department in the past.
That going to be open for some sort of consideration
That'll-
from the public? Or-
That'll be up to the new police chief, Brian. I think, you know, I think he has had, my understanding, he has had, you know, he does want to involve the public in some of that, but
Yeah.
it really is Brian's department to run, so.
Well,
Just so you-
Brian also, but,
I said Brian.
he said Brian.
Oh,
You guys didn't actually, you made that decision, but you've never announced to the public your decision.
So.
oh, we haven't?
just that,
I've been waiting to write the story, but I've been holding back because you guys.
Is that
didn't
okay?
get it.
I don't think there's any reason not.
Yeah.
Hang on a second, Wesley. What's up?
The point I was trying to get at is, I've been looking into that since I was informed that that was the case. I did talk to the chief.
Hmm.
He indicated that yes, that was done. That was what he thought was going to happen. And I was looking for where the baseline is that we've been operating under, and I can't seem to find any baseline at all that's out there for us to see what it is that we're funding, how we're doing it, what it is that they're supposed to be giving back. I don't see statements of work, et cetera.
Are you the gentleman I spoke with for an hour or so on the phone? I thought so. Yeah, absolutely. So I understand your thought process
I
now.
know it's the largest single, I believe, component of our budget, and
No,
we're always
highway
looking
piece.
for money.
Highway probably is, yeah.
Okay.
Hold your thought,
I
Wesley.
know we talk highway all the time.
In my opinion, I think that is one of the things that is on the list of the new chief, and it, you know, I'd rather him address you with that than me try to speak for him.
There's no public interface here.
Not yet, there is not. So, I mean, again, Ryan is taking over, since it's public knowledge now, thanks to me,
Yeah.
Ryan will be taking over after the first of the year.
Yeah.
And Sam is chief until then, so they're, you know, they're in a transition period right now. Yeah, Ellie.
Since I was kind of tired of this person's, operation. When is the preventative report going to be available? The Supreme Court said that you needed to do that, and I haven't.
Stop over and pick it up.
All right.
It's available, from what I understand. It's available at the town office. It is public knowledge. So, and Wesley had something. I don't do the website.
More wrong and then more tired.
Right, so
Stupid to post it on the website.
what were you gonna say, Wesley?
My question was, I don't have a problem with Ryan, but I always thought the chief had.
No,
No.
the rules for the police department are the same
When did that
for all the officers. It's been changing
9
because,
years ago.
And so 9 years ago, but also Wesley, to reel it in a little closer than that, over this last year and a half, 2 times that I recall specifically since I've been on the board, we've had to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how we can get more of an audience for our hiring, right?
Response rate, yeah.
I don't have a
No,
problem. I'm
no.
just Asking the question.
No, if it-
Might not,
Right.
I lived in this town my whole life
So look,
and I never knew it changed.
I
So
don't
Wesley,
think
it changed when the police, I believe, when the police chief became an appointed position and not an elected position.
Yeah.
That was the difference.
and I don't think you have a problem with it, but I want to give you a comprehensive answer. Yeah.
I just didn't want you to get, you're gonna get competitive with it.
Yeah.
Cause I'm sure there's people that have to realize, like me, like I said, I've lived with you my whole life and I never realized everything.
A lot of people don't because they don't come, but and you know more than most people because you attend some meetings, you know? Brian and then Ellie, Brian? Hang on, Ellie, Brian?
Just wanted to follow up on what I'd asked before. Is there a statement of work? Is there a delineation of labor and so forth that the police department provides? from the town?
Let's do it.
Besides the one that I know of, when I talked to the chief on this issue, he indicated they'd never been asked that question. The town said they'd never been asked that question. And I do know that one of the police officers, he indicated, works at the school, so 75% of that salary is paid for by the state.
No,
By
it's
a
paid by the school.
Okay,
Which a portion
Which
of that
they
comes
get a
from
grant.
us. Yeah,
We
and-
paid them.
yeah,
Anything that's factual, if you got questions like that, ask me.
okay.
And I can give you anything that's common, you know.
I've come to your office and asked, but they didn't.
Have you and I talked?
I don't think we have.
I don't think we have.
No, we
You'll
haven't.
talk to Ned next week, but right now, it's been,
okay,
I'm the town administrator.
I know
Makes
that.
sense. Okay.
I've come to your office and I've asked the question.
Okay,
and
I
was
haven't,
told that there was no answer.
okay, let's try a couple of answers.
Okay.
There are job descriptions for every position in the town, including every position in the police department. That's number one. The job descriptions are then incorporated in police policies. Police policies are this thick. They were rewritten 2 years ago. They need to be rewritten again. They are called, they're CLIA approved policies, which are nationally approved policies. Problem is that the nationally approved policies assume we got 20,000 officers, you know, a budget of $100 million. We don't have. So I know that both sergeants are interested in changing those policies. Those policies dictate almost every function of life for officers. Tells, it has, the only thing that has been in question, and it has nothing to do with our department, it has to do with state law, and that's use of force. So you go to the Provenza case, or any cases where anybody's alleging a problem. The state's policy on use of force is different. You can use deadly force only if you're threatened with deadly force or somebody else is threatened with deadly force. Good. You can use any level of force other than deadly force for any other. Any refusal to follow an order, jaywalking, whatever, you can use any force less than deadly force for those types of events. There are other people that do it, other departments that do it differently. That's always been a goal to make sure that there's a use of force policy that is progressive. In other words, there's seven levels of force. I don't think it needs to be 7, but you need to have several levels identified and then the rules about that. All the rest of the stuff has been pretty much turned into concrete. So all of like conflict of interest statements, how the complaints are registered, all that stuff is in existing policies now. And they have been used. It has dropped off, I would say, in the last 2 years. But right after the Provenza case, we had complaints coming in on the average about every 2 weeks. And we put into place on those issues, cameras. We board, approved, bought body cameras.
let me ask a question real quick. Is this answering your question?
What did you want?
Right,
Try to
so-
go.
We're into the weeds.
Yeah, we're in the weeds.
I got a bigger question.
So,
There's
so
600 pages of policies that govern everything you're talking.
let's reel it back in. We appreciate it, Mike, though, but I had a feeling we were kind of losing it. This would be my suggestion. And whether it's an appropriate suggestion for you or not, I don't know. But my suggestion would be come in after January, make a point to speak with the new chief ask your questions of the new chief so you get a more comprehensive answer maybe. Like I say, I don't know if that is the answer you're looking for, but that's where my thought process goes with it. It seems as though in here you're not getting the answer you need because we might not be understanding your question thoroughly.
I'm not down into what they do.
Sure.
I'm a retired airport person with
Yeah,
almost 50 years of government service,
thank you.
two different entities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very pro-police, but
Sure.
I always look for, like, we pick apart every highway thing that we do
Right.
down to nickels and dimes.
Right.
And I think that for whoever we're hiring to do whatever job it is, the town should know, what is it that you're bringing to the town?
Right. And that's what you spoke, that was our conversation on the phone that day.
Police department,
Because we do this and we expect this and we are accountable here and.
I'm assuming every individual is doing their job and doing it well.
Right,
That's not the question.
sure, understood. Thomas,
I was just gonna suggest, gentlemen, that rather than having individuals go see the new chief, that whether it's part of a select board meeting or a special meeting or something, that the new chief, in the interest of transparency, you know, now that it's public, thank you, Steve. You know, that he perhaps takes the time to spend an hour and just sort of introduce himself to the town.
sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I
some
think
questions.
that'll be appropriate after the first of the year.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I do
no,
too. That's good thought process.
after he assumes office.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, maybe
And
we
then
have,
Folks don't come, that's on them, but.
Yeah.
you know,
we have a time where meet the new chief night or something like that and, you know, we can fire away a bunch of
You say
questions.
Ryan, but I think you like.
So,
Porter,
Ryan Porter, he's one of the sergeants currently.
yeah, he's a Sergeant Curley and, you know, so yes, Ryan Porter has, been offered and accepted the new, position for police. Ellie?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, that I've been to training sessions, so this is just from what I learned from them. There has been, I think, at least one court case about whether you can make a police chief or other position, a resident, and from my understanding of the law, you can't if they're appointed. But you can, and same way with like the road agent and any other employee, if they're appointed, elected is a different story. But you can, especially if it's like fire, highway, police, and the response time is important. You can say that they have to be within whatever. I noticed that when they advertised the police position, on the website or wherever it was, they did mention that. I don't know what's.
Yeah, and that's some of what we've revamped. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. Not in what anymore, so that doesn't harm goes away.
Okay.
And the other thing is, we do have, there are some things, I don't know if they're all available on the website or not, but there, I don't know if this is just, what this gentleman was curious about, is that there are, some things outlined in the police union contract. So if you have a copy of that, there are some standards and, things available that will explain some of that here. And then I think, Mike, I don't know if this is available on the website or not, but it should be available somewhere in the town office. I would imagine what you said, that every position in town has a job description. So, but I used to have access to it. My copy of the poll, so it's not really working anymore, but I know that there was one.
All right. Were there any more questions on it? Any more conversation? Okay, thank you. All right, that brings us to other business. Does anyone have any other business they'd like to discuss?
I just want to ask you about the lighting project. I know Mike was looking at it and everything. I haven't gotten any more on this building or the fire station or anything. I don't know.
We have that. I actually just handed that. We have got proposals
Yeah, okay.
and just.
I
handed
haven't
it-
seen it.
Yeah.
Scott, yeah, put it in my box tonight. I
Yeah.
have not seen
Is
it.
that, the proposals have this building in
wait a
them?
minute. Have you got more than one proposal?
No, I have.
That's what we got.
So it's a proposal, but from multiple places. That's
Before I went on vacation, he sent me over stuff, or actually a month and a half ago, he sent me the paperwork. Problem is, there's no paperwork. There's
It's
application,
just the one, basically for.
the one for the highway garage is in,
Yeah.
okay? There has to be, we've done this before, there's always an agreement, there's an agreement with the utility company
No.
Yeah.
that's-
and all the rest, and we haven't seen any of that, so I think
Yeah, I
I
haven't got-
communicated with that with you, we need to see that.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten any.
And then the only comment is about timing,
So
money.
we have got a proposal
Right,
and it is for 3 different buildings.
yeah,
And I don't have it in front of me. It's in my car.
Yeah.
Go get it. I could show it to you afterwards. Is that what that's what you're asking?
yeah, no, I was just asking, but yeah, right, about the
Yeah.
lighting project,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all.
We have got the proposal. From what I understand, the state, because of the type of lighting that we're talking about installing and replacing, the state is going to pick up, from what I gather, 50% of the proposal. And yes,
So what's the problem?
it is, but I've got 2 pieces attached with it that just discusses what lighting.
That's
This is-
only- That's highway.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
This is the number for the total quote,
For highway.
but no. It's for all 3
Well,
buildings.
it looks like we need more information.
Yeah. Oh, I've got it out in my car.
That's fine, but.
So in my car, there's 2 other pieces attached that show the description.
I've been trying to get this.
Well,
4 weeks.
Gotcha. So anyway, what I'm saying is, from what I understand on that proposal, because of the lighting that we are installing and replacing, that the state is willing to give us a kickback of 50% of the initial cost. And then the other 50% will be absorbed through our utility bill until it's paid off. So it's no actual money up front, from what I understand. So, yeah. It's not much different than that, like all the other 2 pages do is show what lights they're gonna,
I
it's
don't have
already
a
there.
problem with timing, if in fact there's no cash out of pocket, we can do it, okay?
Right, yeah.
We've done it twice before in the last 10 years, so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Good idea, I just haven't gotten it. I got a 1-page agreement to do it, but I haven't got any paperwork at all.
Alright. I'll get it to you for the, so like I say, the other paperwork that's associated with it is just the descriptions of what lights they would be replacing and where.
All right,
That's the dollar amount attached to it right there. So that's the nuts and bolts. That's the important part, the money part. So there were a couple other businesses. This gentleman, go ahead. Yes, sir.
My name is David Reynolds. I reside on Roberts Road. I have been for 15 years. Over time, it's been more noticeable that the speed increases or the cars have become faster on that roads, especially since the what brought it to light a month ago. Well, I'd like to say the concern that I have is traffic coming from Canaan Light down towards Route 4. Specifically at the crest of the hill just before the health center. A month ago, the young gentleman came over that crest of the hill, saw a deer, took out 2 mailboxes.
Yeah.
Mine and my neighbors.
You live in that house right there, right? We've met before.
Yeah, then, well, let's say either Thursday or Friday of last week. A young lady came over, crossing over the top of that hill as I was trying to cross the mailbox, driving at an excessive rate of speed. Saw me, didn't even slow down.
Right.
So I had the privilege of talking with Sergeant Porter, excellent officer. And explained the situation to him. He said, I'll put a patrol up there. He did. In his first setting, he picked up 5 people in excess of 45 miles an hour coming on that straightaway stretch before you crest the hill. When you crest that hill to the first driveway, it's about 110 feet. When you get to my driveway, it's about 130 feet. A reasonable stopping distance, considering action time, is far, in excess of that, anywhere from 140 to 175 feet, depending on how fast you're going. So with all that jargon being said, what I'm asking for, I came up with some possible solutions. And if the board can take any action on any of these, I appreciate it. First of all, I asked Sergeant Porter about a speed sign. Well, let me say, the speed is posted at 30 miles an hour. Just before the hill, there are 2 signs there that indicate hidden driveways. When I spoke with Sergeant Porter, I asked if there was a possibility of putting up a speed sign or an electronic monitoring sign for speed. He said, yes, we have one, but we don't have batteries for it. They're on order. So my question is possible if the board can do anything to work with the police department. to try to expedite that. And if not, can we go to Enfield and borrow one of theirs for a little while, just to get a handle on how fast those cars are really going? Second, suggestion is that the, police patrols that Sergeant Porter said would be for a couple of weeks, you know, maybe a little more routinely are up in that area. And from my experience, especially in areas like Woodstock, and word gets out, you don't do 25 miles an hour, you know, you get ticketed. So that's the other question. The people that were stopped, I don't know if they're issued warnings or tickets. I think tickets have a more of an impact, you know, speeding. Also, I know a while back you guys were approached on speed bumps. I will ask to continue to investigate whether a fixed speed bump or a removable speed bump could be put in just before the help.
Maybe an option.
I guess that's about it.
Okay. So just, it's interesting you came in tonight because I mean, there's been several news articles about the number of traffic deaths in New Hampshire recently and how it's one of the highest years we've had and
They're up.
or will be very much up. So speed's a problem, and almost all accidents can be related back to speed. So I think the electronic speed sign is a good start. We have struggled with the police department because they've been shorthanded. So I mean, if you've got any kind of somebody sitting up there from Sergeant Porter's standpoint, you're ahead of the game, in my opinion. So
Usually what I've noticed, and I think you did that, is usually between the morning hours, 7:30, 8:30, and then in the evening going the other way back towards the
Yeah.
4:30 to 5:30.
it is a little disturbing that we have two police chiefs that live on that road as well, that not both for this town, but they're both two police chiefs that live on that road. So
Yeah.
What road, what's the road?
Roberts Road.
Robert Road.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the first I've heard that they're waiting for batteries on the speed sign. We can follow up on that certainly, because that seems like a quick fix, and I think that is a step and in the right direction. We're still working through the speed bump program. I know it's been talk, and the ones on, around my neighborhood have not been working out very well. So they're looking at different options right now, and we've got some prices, but we haven't really talked about it as a board, so.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We could always rip the pavement off, make it dirt again, so it's so rough. Jesus.
Well, we'll have that experiment in place on South Road here. So.
Wesley, where were you 2 meetings ago? I advocated to turn it all back to dirt so we don't have to maintain asphalt. We can maintain dirt with the equipment we have, but anyway. Duly noted, and I'll tell you, one of the things that this is gonna prompt me to do personally is I'm gonna check a little further into the speed sign. We talked about it a fair amount several weeks ago. I know that the officers, Todd specifically, had come over to the highway garage, and there's some talk around it. So from what I'm hearing, they've ordered some batteries. They're on back order like everything else there is, but if we can work collectively with some other departments.
And Enfield's not out of the question. They're using theirs right now. I think I don't know how many they have. I know they have one, but they did let us borrow it at the school for a period of time last fall and the last spring. So, but I know they're using it right now on Route 4. So
Yeah, I thought maybe something.
yeah, Ellie.
I think that road
Hmm.
So I was just curious if you guys know when they'll be done with that. Maybe that's problem with getting more traffic.
I haven't seen the schedule on it, so.
I believe with what I remember those folks telling me to begin with, and then the schedule that they've had on the other ones, I would like to think that within the next few weeks, that'll be wrapping up. Yeah.
So I didn't know if they had a contract with you guys to rent that property, or, that you were in the loop.
Yeah, we are in the loop. We allowed them to set up their field office there in the log cabin parking lot.
Yeah.
And so, because they needed a place for their trailer for all their, they may have, Ellie might.
They gave us
It's the
a,
end of the season.
right, they gave us an
Like it-
estimated time.
It
on
looks like to
each
me like they're
project.
gonna be wrapped up before snow flies, so.
That's
I mean,
right.
they're.
So I
What?
just-
have to.
No, but Ellie,
State, they can do it.
Ellie, I am telling you, they did discuss timeframes with us way back when the gentleman came in when we were having the meetings down in the old conference room under the library when I first started. And he gave us, they had a specific time frame that they had in place for each. And I would say, just using my, the common sense, as I look at how long it took them to do that one lane. They're about halfway through that amount of time on this second lane. And I think we were around 6 weeks, give or take. I haven't been tracking it. So I'm saying we're probably better than halfway through this second lane.
And the final layer of asphalt.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and then the final layers. Yeah. Anyone else have anything for other business? Brian?
Too bad we don't have speed cameras, huh? In
Yeah.
the state, that would be a good thing.
That would be an invasion of rights.
Community power, oh, I heard that. Yeah, it seems to be a thing in our state. Take a picture and send it to your poll booth, same thing, so the property, that argument's losing its value. But with the community power thing, is there gonna be a committee assigned, looks like you're gonna explore options for power and community power, I think that's great. Is there a way to get involved with that, or?
Yep, send me an email and there's already active committee members that predate me. And it goes to a guy by the name of Herndon and nothing's been set up yet, but if you send me an email, townadmin@canaannh.org.
Okay.
And I'll pass it on to Herndon and to the other members.
Thank you.
And as far as the board, and I believe as far as the board's concerned on that, yes, Stephen and I are on board with exploring some options, but we're so new to the board that I quite frankly didn't even know there was an old committee on it, Brian. So it's something that we've discussed at that one night, a couple of weeks ago, and we haven't, picked it up from there.
Great idea.
Yeah, only 2 nights. Sharon?
Since we're talking committees, it was in the newsletter, but the hazard mitigation plan, which gets updated every 5 years, the public is invited to it, participate. You have to sign up and be part of a committee, but if you're interested in that, to email me.
And to hit on what that is, just 30 seconds here. I sat in on that and I'm going to sit in on the rest of them. It's kind of a neat process. I've never been involved with before, obviously, but every 5 years, the state comes around and we redo our hazard plans, what's the hazard mitigation plans. So basically, emergency services, where would we have for shelter? Where would livestock go? What is cooling facilities? What do we think we're at risk of hurricanes, floods, all that sort of thing. And we do that over the course of several months, from what I understand, and then come up with a new plan for the town of Canaan. I just think it's kind of neat, and the public is able to sit in on it. You just have to do it by request to be part of the committee. And Sharon, what's the email? sduffy@canaannh.org. It was a neat process, and I'm glad I'm able to set in on it. So did anybody else have anything else tonight? Anybody else? Wesley?
I got 2 things.
Okay.
The first thing I've heard, I don't know if it's true. That we were running all our vehicles through Freightliner to get inspected.
I can address that real quick. Right now we are, because our mechanic just moved here from Virginia and he's got to get his inspection license. Right,
My question,
sure. All right, give it to me.
I was told that they suggested using 603 truck and equipment. And then I was told that there was one selectman that is not here tonight that said absolutely not. I'd like to know why. If that's true, I'd like to know why, if you guys.
I don't recall that conversation at all.
Yeah, I have not heard any of us say that anybody is absolutely against using.
Oh, okay, then
Yeah.
that goes back to my
Yeah.
next question.
Hmm.
He's a taxpayer in town, and I don't work for him anymore, by the way.
I know that,
You
Wesley.
know,
Yeah,
He's a taxpayer in town, he pays a lot of taxes. He's like $45 to $50 an hour cheaper than what Freightliner is. Why
So-
haven't we done work on the rescue truck, he dropped what he was doing and tried to get it done in a timely fashion. I just don't understand why we didn't call or.
I can address that, Wesley, from my point of view. And my standpoint is I have advocated a bit to use local businesses more. And I have advocated for the fact that it doesn't matter what anyone's last name is. If they've got a good viable business and they have people that can fix vehicles, then we should be using them.
Okay.
And I think going further, we're going to open that up a bit more. I do know that we've had our new road agent has had some discussions with him about purchase of material. That hasn't happened, in the recent years. But I agree with you. We've got a guy here who's got a business. No,
Just heard what I heard, so I
Well-
wanted to address that.
so, and I'm answering you.
If-
Yep.
If what I heard was true, I would think that it's wrong.
I haven't heard that, but I do know on the other side of it, it's the opposite. And I'm not gonna sit here and specifically speak for Stephen, but I'll speak for myself. That if we've got good viable businesses here that can offer a service, we should be utilizing. And Mike knows that's been my feelings, and I'll give you an example of why real quick. I don't know if it was the first day that I was here or within the first week. We went rounds and rounds, not him and I specifically, as a whole, went rounds and rounds about getting the locks updated and the new keypads done. And since that day, Mike and the board knows that I advocate to do business locally. We all pay taxes here. It helps us sign that check a little bit if we can work with each other some, myself included. So I haven't heard anything to that effect, Wesley. And if I do, I'll address it. Not saying I'm going to be able to do anything about it, but I'll ask why and what their thoughts are and get into a dialogue about it. But I don't think that's the sentiment as a whole. So,
We've had, Thomas called me 4 times on this issue.
yeah,
I
he called me
told-
the other morning at 6:30 in the
I
morning.
told him the same thing all 4 times.
Yeah.
There's no discrimination at all.
No.
Not only that, but you brought me the purchase order. We approved the purchase order.
This has nothing to do with him.
Yeah,
This is to do
okay.
with me, because I
Okay,
heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
I just,
I know there's concern, but
understand why we're bringing this up with Freightliner and not even calling and asking.
I think it's a good
That's what I
question.
think that was my question, but I also heard that it was a past issue with the selectman that's not here. And if he was here, I would have asked him.
I'll tell you this, if it was a past issue with the selectman that's not here or any of the ones that aren't on the board anymore, then those are past issues.
Right,
And so, right, as your new board member, I'll tell you that we're trying to do away with the old and come in with the new here. And I know Stephen shares that same sentiment because we've discussed that in meetings before. We can't fix it all at once. No, hey, I get it, but I'm gonna answer. You asked the question, I'm gonna answer you. I can talk as much as you. Both of us get alone together, we might never escape, right?
And then-
But,
what are you two?
yeah,
and then
I know, but I asked Stephen to reel me in, so, if you have anything else, I'll listen, but
I do, that's not on. that's
Yeah.
to do with that.
what you got?
Can I get the ditch fixed by my mailbox before my mailbox falls down? Because when they ditched the road, they went about 8 inches above every water turnout that there is on the road. So
What road are you on, Wesley?
Or like this deep.
What road are you on? So I would suggest this. Go talk to the road agent, let him know your concern. He's a pretty reasonable guy. And I think a lot of people are finding that they're having fairly decent success approaching him and talking to him. Go to him. His name is Bob Cushman.
I don't.
Yeah, you know Bob. Ask him, talk to him. I mean, that, I'm not gonna speak for department heads as far as what I want them to do on a daily basis. But I hear your concern, and I would say go talk to Bob. I know he's up for talking to any resident in the town of Canaan. I know that for a fact. So if you've got a concern or an issue, please take it to the road agent. Yeah. Speed,
The speed bump.
yeah,
And there was big bolts and stuff sticking out of it, and
Yeah.
I called him up, I left a message, he called me back right away, he
Right.
said, over here, it's still gonna get fixed, so I called him back again, and he back over to put it out, and he did the whole thing.
Ellie, I was just trying to slow down cars even more, and you foiled my plan.
Sharon, did you have something?
Just the way Wes was talking, just remember, we are losing Mr. Borthwick this next spring. He says he's not going to run again, so.
Yeah.
If you are thinking about this position, or you know someone that you think would be good at it, make sure they start coming to the meetings and start talking to the guys about it and learning about the job now for the run next spring.
We don't have enough time for me to take off on that one, because it is that important, you know, it's big. So if we don't have anything else, I'd like to go into non-public.
I will make a motion to go into non-public.
Seconds, all in favor?
Thank you all for coming in.
Thank
Good
you.
meeting.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. You always have it.
Absolutely.
Everyone has it. Night.
Good night.